Has your loved one been diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder? Have you watched it wreak havoc not only on their life but yours as well? If so, keep watching, and I hope you find this video helpful. Hi, my name is Mackenzie Nordone, and I am a support group host for NOCD. I am also diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder and went through exposure response therapy with NOCD a few years ago. I have said this so many times, but I mean it wholeheartedly. One of the most pivotal pieces of my recovery journey was involving my family in the process. Whether it was my partner coming and sitting in on my therapy sessions, or me taking the time to explain obsessive compulsive disorder to those who would listen. My husband went to so many therapy sessions in the beginning, and it was so good because sometimes we struggle to be reliable narrators in the beginning of our journey. And what I mean by that is it's hard to be completely honest with our therapist about what's going on, because when we're honest about the things that our OCD is getting stuck in, then we know we're going to have to work on those things. And that's scary, and that's valid. But what happens is when my husband would come and sit in on therapy sessions with me, and my therapist would say, "Hey, Mackenzie, how are you? How's everything going?" And I would say, "Great. Nothing's been bothering me much lately." And my husband would look at me and say, actually, we've been eating out nonstop because Mackenzie feels like the kitchen is contaminated, and our finances are really struggling because we can't sustain continuing to eat out. And in that moment, he held me accountable when I couldn't, right? And so he was being that reliable narrator in the situation and letting my therapist know where OCD was creating chaos and what I needed to work on. And I might not have liked that at the time, but it was what was best for me and what helped me. I think another really important part about involving our family members in our ERP therapy journey is that they get to learn what kind of support we truly need versus the support that our OCD wants us to get, right? So OCD wants us to get the support of reassurance, but that's not what we need. It's what we want in that moment. I think it's a really important tool for our loved ones to educate themselves. Education is powerful, and the more they know about obsessive compulsive disorder, the more they can help us along the way. It's really good to have a partner as far as accountability goes, whether it's a friend or a loved one or a partner. It's a good thing. When OCD is really loud, sometimes it's hard to hold ourselves accountable, and it's nice to have someone that can do that for us in those moments. The more that our loved ones learn about OCD, whether it's stigma, understanding how real the fear is, or understanding what exposure response therapy is, all of that pieced together helps us get to recovery. So if your loved ones are willing to let you come and sit on a therapy session, that's amazing. I love that. Also at NOCD, we have support groups, and one of those support groups is Supporting Others, which I host, and that's on Monday nights. And what I do there is I want it to be a safe space for loved ones. I want it to be a place where people can feel less alone and more understood, and they can share their stories about how OCD is creating chaos, or how well their exposure response therapy journey is going as a family. And it's just where you can realize that you're not alone, and realize that there are so many other families dealing with the same thing, even if it's not the exact same compulsions or the exact same theme as far as OCD is concerned. The chaos that OCD brings, it's a lot. And I think, something I say all the time is that two things can coexist at once. It is extremely difficult and frustrating and overwhelming to have obsessive compulsive disorder, but sometimes it can be extremely difficult and overwhelming and frustrating to be the loved one of someone that's dealing with obsessive compulsive disorder. Another tip that I give loved ones is I think that it's really important, especially, in my journey, and I can't speak for everyone, when people would take the time to differentiate between my OCD and myself. It doesn't feel good to be put in a box. And OCD is not a personality trait. So the simple idea of, say my husband was getting really overwhelmed, because again, it's valid. It can be overwhelming. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, Mackenzie, which is me, you are overwhelming me right now. I can't handle this. That hurts, right? It feels personal. The idea of this little perspective switch, right? Where my husband says, Mackenzie, your OCD is really overwhelming right now. And I know it's not you, but I'm going to walk away and I'm going to take a second. And I understand that this isn't something you choose and that you're trying to work through it. And I love you, but I'm overwhelmed by the OCD in the moment. I think it's really powerful to make that distinction. And the same goes for our loved ones. If they're saying, my brain, I'm so sorry if I am overwhelming everyone. I'm so sorry if, if it's so hard to be around me. I'm so sorry if I am causing chaos. Let them know that you understand the difference between them and OCD and that they need to too. Hey, why don't you try to change that and say, my OCD is overwhelming and I can see that. Or my OCD is causing chaos and I can see that. It's not a personality trait. It's a mental health disorder. Lastly, be kind to yourselves. Going back to what I said earlier, this is hard for our loved ones and for us. Being kind to ourselves is one of the most simple things that we can do, but it is so extremely important. Give yourself grace. Meet yourself where you're at. This is difficult. Self-care is important. Taking a step back if you need to is important. Going to support groups, learning that you're not alone, that is important. Educating yourself, that is important. The fact that you're listening to this video right now tells me that you are an amazing support system for the person you love, and they are so lucky to have you. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.